Hey guys, just a very quick little video. I kind of want to just let you guys know how exactly you should be considering on spending your stamina around the time you're going to be reaching level 50, which is going to be towards the end of mid-game and going towards the end game. For most casual players that you're going to be seeing this, you're playing this at your own time, right? Maybe like 1 hour, less than 1 hour a day. You're probably around the part where you reach Wuling. Probably today or this week. By the time you reach level 50 is going to be when you've pretty much finished off Wuling. You are going to be more or less done with at least one of the DPS, and you're considering where are you going to be dumping your sanity from this point going forward. This is actually a pretty important video because I've also made a couple of these mistakes myself playing throughout this game, and hopefully if I can go by time, here are the things that I will actually make for the changes, right? So one very important thing to just first understand is that for Arknights Endfield, the sanity system or the stamina system is very similar to the classic or like the big gacha game titles. You're going to be getting 240 on a day-to-day basis. For Arknights Endfield specifically, it looks to be a little bit slower, slightly under the usual rate, but you do get the additional 40 stamina when you clear dailies, right? Which is going to be from this over here. Keep in mind, this one is going to be on a timer. I think it's really be 10 days. So remember to use them whenever you have to. You don't really need to hoard this at all because as per the level progression, you should be able to unlock pretty much most of your training at maximum efficiency. You can see from all of the farming here, the moment you can reach level 5, you can just feel free to go ahead and spend your stamina, right? So the more important thing I kind of want to talk about is sanity management or stamina in Arknights Endfield is actually very tight, because a single run of your usual farming, you can see over here, it will take anywhere between 40 to 80 stamina, or rather most of your level 5 stages, they're all going to be costing 80 sanity, right? So that means that on a day-to-day basis, you are only going to be spending 3 runs of any sort of damage you want, and that is pretty much all you have, right? So 80 stamina times 3, which means that you're gonna be very restrictive in your resources. So you need to kind of prioritize which one do you want to spend on stamina or sanity, so they can have like a better comfort going towards the end game, especially if you want to try yourselves, because we are going to be getting the end game content, I believe, next week around Chinese New Year. So that is when your very first end game content in Arknights Endfield is going to be coming out. From back in Sanity 3, it is basically you only need a single team. You only need a single team, and you're going to be tackling 3 different floors. A little bit similar to what you will find from like Forgotten Hall or Memory of Chaos, but you only need 1 single team, right? So you have no rush to build your second team, but they might add additional team contents in the future. I don't really believe that this game will only have a single 1-team content, but for now, your primary objective is definitely going to be focusing on that first group of 4 units, right? So with that being established, here's my current progression as a free-to-play account on level 52. I've pretty much at this point cleared every single one of the side quests, all the AIC stuff. You can check out all of our other videos, and I would say this is pretty much like the Zhang Cao Qi, right? You just grow grass, and there's not really too many things left to do in Arknights Endfield anymore until the update comes. But not saying that I'm bored of the game or whatever, but I speed run through the entire game so quickly so that I get to this stage, and then we are essentially going to be putting Arknights Endfield in like a back burner. So you might think that Arknights Endfield is going to be like a main game kind of thing. It is for like the first probably 2 to 3 weeks when you're still progressing through the story and getting up your AIC, but as of where I am at right now, it is really a side game, because I can just log in, clear my dailies in roughly 10 to 15 minutes, down my stamina, and I don't really have anything else to do, right? So that will be what your future look like when you're around this level, unless you want to like min-max your AIC, min-max your zip lines, right? Find a little bit more things to do, feel free, but generally, once you are at this point, you've pretty much done all that needs to be done, and you're just waiting for the update, right? So now that it's going to be established, this is what my team looks like right now. I currently have a full team of Leviathan, which is going to be Agakuri, Wolfguard, as well as Ardelia, and I am also personally gonna be raising up my second team, which is gonna be an Ember main DPS with Cheng Lifeng as well as Administrator, right? The reason why I'm raising Ember is simply because I like playing her, right? Not for meta reasons, not because she deals a shit ton of damage, which obviously she doesn't, but I really like the way she plays, and she's my first ever 6-star, and her JPVA is facial, so I will make her work. As of right now, the reason why I personally want to build 2 different teams, even though I'm a free-to-play, so my resources are not even that high, is because Arknights Endfield's content right now with regards to like combat, it doesn't really need you to have extremely high levels of investments for your units. So the main thing is gonna be your levels for your supports, as well as your essence or artifacts for your main DPS, right? So for your supports, do not raise their levels anymore, right? So this was one of the mistakes I made, which is I took Ardela's level from level 6 to level 80. This was a pretty big waste of resource, and if I could rewind time, I would have just preferred to just dump these EXP to like my Li Feng or my admin on my Chen, so I can get their ascension up to equip gold gears, right? But personally, for all of the supports and sub DPS, you can just leave them level 60, because the only purpose of leaving them level 60 is to allow them to run gold gears, and then if you can run gold gears, that's it. You don't really need to care about anything else anymore. For Wolfguard, if you want to bring up like his sub DPS potential, you could consider raising up a little bit higher, but as of right now, I just don't really feel that there's a need to, because even if you're going to be raising up Wolfguard as like the sub DPS, majority of your damage is still going to ultimately come from your Leviathan, right? So if your Leviathan's investment level is going to be high enough, whether or not you're going to be dumping like another insane amount of Sanity just for another sub DPS, maybe increasing your final team-wide damage by like 5 to 10%, I personally think it's just not really worth it, especially when there's no content that really cares about it that now, and I would rather just spend my stamina on a second team, which is in this case going to be Ember, as well as basically my physical team, right? So that is going to be for levels. Leave all your supports at level 60, give them the gold gears, that's going to be the for the weapons side of things. Personally, if you want to raise them, you could. I don't see any reason to. Same thing for the main DPS, because whether or not you're going to be getting your main set for supports, it just helps them deal a little bit more damage. But like I mentioned, supports themselves don't really do that much damage anyways. Their main purpose is to like give yourself inflictions, give yourself skill points, as well as give yourself like ultimate energy to synchronize your main DPS, right? So I kind of still left all of my level 20, and yes, even weapon experience in this game is going to be kind of lagging. You can see that this is going to be 83 over here, but if I want to raise up, like say for example, this, right? I'm already more or less completely out of materials. I only have this little bit left. I mean, I could just slam this upgrade, and I'm done. So very, very restricted with regards to weapon XP. And on top of that, we also do need to use this currency called the this thingy right here, which is going to be your T-Cracks. You're going to be using this for everything, like I mentioned in my beginner's guide. So really be a little bit more savvy with regards to this, especially in the early game. So personally, I would raise up Leviathan's DPS as long as your main DPS gear is all the way to max. It's fine. If you want to save even more, you could technically just leave them level 80, because the amount of stamina is going to be the highest from your 80 to 90 gap. But for me personally, because I use the Leviathan for like almost everything to clear my dailies as fast as possible whenever that, so I kind of just gave her the double level 90. Everything else, I'm just going to be leaving to level 20 for my weapons, level 60 for the levels, and then the rest of the stuff, I'm just going to be building out my second team, and then we'll see how that is going to be going, right? Okay, then that is going to be done for your tracers. I would say same concept, which is you want to just raise up your main DPS tracers. I would not touch on this. Reason being, so far I've played pretty much everything. I only have a single mark of perseverance. So this thing, from what it looks like, is incredibly rare. So unless there's gonna be an event or like a endgame content like Memory of Chaos that really wants me to go all the way for the additional skill up for the crowns, I would not invest in this, right? So just leave them at level 9 is going to be more than enough. For a lot of your supports, it kind of just depends on their kit. So for example, Agaguri, you kind of just don't need any of these basic skills. The only one you want to care about is the ultimate, because it gives you more skill points, so that's going to be great. For Wolfguard, frankly speaking, whether or not he's a sub DPS or a main DPS or whatever, or like a support, I don't think it's going to be worth it to raise any of his stuff, because his increase in skills only increase your multiplier. So his multiplier is already that low to begin with. If you want to just leave bro at like level 3, it is also completely fine. So that's going to be that. As long as you can equip gold gear, that is going to be fine. And then for your Ardelia, similar things, I'm just going to be leaving up her tracer to mainly just a battle skill, because it will increase your susceptibility percentage. And then ultimate just for a little bit more, but frankly speaking, if I can go by time, I will also just save this to maybe around level 6, and that's going to be good enough, right? So that's going to be that. For your weapons, into specifically essence. And I guess this is kind of like where my main topic of the video is going to come from. Should you start farming essence right now with your sanity? And the answer to that question is, honestly, it kind of depends on what you personally enjoy. Because technically speaking, if you just want to build a single unit, right? You want to just make the best possible Leviathan in the entire world. You want to slam all of your stamina. Sure, it's fine, because you already achieved the maximum efficiency with regards to the essence farming. Roughly, the amount of sanity it would take to get a fully upgraded essence is roughly 11 to 12 days. And the reason why this is because it's in Arknights Endfield's gear, because essence is basically this game's endgame gear, is that they follow a very rigid progression, unlike your other gacha games where it's always going to be like RNG with regards to gears. Because you can see that when you're going to be farming your edge essence, right, you have this thing called the coolant gels, which will guarantee the upgrade for whatever part it's gonna be. So it is really just a matter of time before this essence reaches the 663, right? Anybody can get the best in slot gear in Arknights Endfield, best in slot essence. All you need is just time, because eventually when you're going to keep farming all these kind of things and you keep obtaining these coolant gels, which are going to be getting from fordering all of your gold essence, you will eventually get there, right? So if you want to, you could just dump all of your stamina in your Sanity right now to get the perfect essence for main DPS. Or on the other hand, which is what I am doing right now, is I am just going to leave them at a mediocre-ish level. So what I'm gonna be aiming for is at least +2 on the third slot, so preferably a natural 2. And then for the first 2, you kind of want to just bring them to +3 to +4, because for your +5 and +6, the odds go up considerably higher, as in like the chance of failure, right? So you can see over here, right now the +2, the chance of success is actually really high, right? It's gonna be high, which is good. But if you go up to from 5 to 6, or this very last line, which is going to be from 2 to 3, you can see that the success is extremely low. Now, granted, you could get lucky and you get it, but most of the time, you are probably not going to be hitting this. And most players will essentially be using a coolant gel, especially for the last line, which is the +5 to +6, as well as the +2 to +3, right? So, me personally, I am just going to stop around here, because I don't really care that much if my Leviathan is going to be the best in slot, and I just really want to try play more teams and more units in Arknights Endfield, because frankly speaking, at this point, I don't really have anything else to do, right? I just want to try out and experiment with different team comps, so that is what I am doing. If you want to get a couple of essences for other units, I would say you could consider holding them, just because their weapons are not really like the best in slot. The thing with Arknights Endfield and the whole weapon thing, right, is that the way that the gacha is structured means that you are more often than not going to be able to get a lot of different 6-star weapons, because a 6-star weapon banner rate for Arknights Endfield is literally going to be 4%. Right, 4% for the 6 stars, as well as 40 for the soft PD, as well as 80 for the hard PD. So more often than not, as you're going to be playing Arknights Endfield over time, you have a lot of different 6-star weapons, which just generally will end up being better than most of their 5-star counterparts for most units, right? Some units, I think their 5 stars are actually really decent. So for example, the Chen weapon over here, it gives you ultimate gain as well as art intensity, which is what you need for like the entire physical team. So this is actually a really decent 5-star weapon. But for most 6-star weapons, it is just going to be better. So for example, if you have OBJ Edge of Lightness, you will not run this if you already have Thermite Cutter. Right, so if you're going to be running Thermite Cutter over here, then you will probably just not run this for whatever that team is going to be. And until we do get ourselves the 2-team content, you could just run the 6-star for a long time, right? And because your 6-star and your 5-star, chances are they're probably going to be having different essence. You don't really want to waste time farming essence for a 5-star weapon, because that may or may not even be viable as you're going to be going to the final endgame here, right? So that is going to be something about essence. And then one last thing for the gears, I think this one is pretty self-explanatory. If you want to, you could consider doing their Artifice. Between Artifice as well as Essence, I would recommend doing the Essence before Artifice, simply just because the amount of damage increase you get from your Essence is actually way higher compared to your Artifice. And on top of that, Artifice is extremely expensive. If you take a look into your regional development, the only time you can actually get up your Artifice is gonna be from this thing over here, right? Which is the the batteries, right? So I would prefer getting out, or rather clearing out the store for the Wuling engraving permit, which is gonna be what you're gonna be using for essence, at least that first row of 95% discount. And then after the very first row, because this is gonna be at a higher discount, then you can consider getting a little bit more over here, right? So as of right now, our economy can only, because this is in a 1-week rotation, I can essentially fully clear this out for the 95% in the essence ticket, as well as a 95% for the batteries, right? Then same thing for the Valley 4, you're going to be clearing out the essence ticket, but there's no such thing as Artifice for Valley 4. So unfortunately, it is what it is, right? And at the end of everything, I would say that you would probably be looking at around a extremely high level DBS, level 60 supports. Talent is not going to be that important. And then between building up a second team or building up on your essence, you can just pick the one that you prefer. I find myself at a very comfortable stopping point at this right here. I don't really want to keep going on for the essence, because I prefer playing one more team, so that I can have a little bit more fun for myself, right? So hopefully this video was a little bit helpful if you're wondering where exactly I'm going to be dumping your stamina, your sanity, especially when you reach around this level. And I'll be looking forward to seeing you guys in more of the videos, right? So very quick little video. All the best, guys. See you guys in there. All right, bye-bye.